Welcome, folks, to Good News Community Radio. So nice to have you with us. Today I'm privileged to interview Philip Rosenthal from the Marriage Advocacy Group, and he will be sharing with us who he is, what he does, as an introduction so that you're familiar with the work that they're doing. Welcome, Philip.
Hi there. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes.
Gladly. Maybe you can just brief us on when you started and what you're actually busy with.
Well, we first got involved in the defending the sanctity of marriage in 2003 when the first proposals were put forward to legalize what they called same-sex marriage, which we believe is not real marriage at all. It's an attempt to undermine marriage. And incrementally since then, there has been one attempt after another to weaken the definition of marriage. But this current marriage bill would take those radical changes to undermine marriage a whole lot of steps further, and we need to really use this opportunity to speak up against this.
What are the problems with this present marriage bill?
Well, essentially, there's three major problems. The first problem is that it proposes to extend polygamy to all men. So, in other words, any man, and not just a person who is married under customary law in a tradition that allows for that, but any man could take a second or a third wife. They say with consent of his existing wife, but I think that very often women are in a very weak power position to say no, and I cannot think of a rational reason why a woman would voluntarily agree to that, unless there was some form of pressure, and she was in a weak position. Then it also would have the impact of weakening the religious freedom protections against, for example, pastors who do not want to be involved with same-sex marriage. And although the bill says that there is some religious freedom protection, it is a whole lot weaker than what we have at the moment. And then also this can be used as a precedent for moral confusion because it equates same-sex marriage in the same category as regular marriage that one man is committed to one woman. So this creates a whole lot of confusion, and we've seen enormous amounts of indoctrination of children in school, for example. And I think that this can be used as a platform to add to that confusion. We don't know what all may come out of this thing, but we have already seen enormously damaging impacts which came out of the previous legalization of so-called same-sex marriage in 2006. Since that time, we've seen the number of people actually getting married, the marriage rate, almost dropped by half, which has an enormous damaging impact on our society because that means that fewer children are growing up in families where they have two parents, a father in the home who is stable and committed to that family. People are experimenting with new ideas about family, but this experiment has already gone disastrously, and we believe it should stop now.
So this is not just a tidying up of the existing laws.
No, well, look, the thing is that the people who are motivating for these changes um, claim that this is just tidying up a mess where there are currently three different marriage laws, and they would then unite that into one. But the difficulty is that what they are proposing is quite different to what is in these existing laws and would have serious impact. So, for example, if you at the moment polygamy or a man having more than one wife is only available to somebody who is part of a traditional culture, which allows for that. And firstly, other men cannot do that, and secondly, the um, the men who do that are then constrained by that culture and their traditions, which do have certain checks and balances to against problems that can arise. Whereas this would not have any of those checks and balances, and it would allow for the women who have married with the expectation of polygamy to now be vulnerable to pressure to accept. Sorry, women who have married with the expectation of monogamy to now be put under pressure to accept polygamy. So we think that this is totally unacceptable. The impact on religious freedom would also be entirely different because at the moment, you if you're a pastor, if you wanted to do same-sex marriage, you would have to register in terms of a completely different act. So there's no pressure on you to participate in same-sex marriage at all. Whereas with this thing, you would have to opt out and explain that you're a conscientious objector. So I would argue that that is unreasonable. They shouldn't have to do this.
It sounds like the devil is in the details, isn't it?
Yes, and we can go through the different details, but there's a whole lot of arguments that they've come up with it, which are, in my view, nonsense. Like they're saying in the preamble to this bill that this is necessary to comply with an international convention for the elimination of discrimination against women. Now, I would argue that is completely upside down. And secondly, that the other countries in the world that have also signed this declaration do not have a law which is similar to what is being proposed. So I think this is kind of like a sleight of hand card trick where people are claiming one thing and doing something else. So we mustn't be taken in by this. We have to rebut it. And I think that people who go into a marriage expecting it to be monogamous should have that expectation for the rest of their life, as long as that marriage continues to exist.
It seems very deceitful because it's coming under the guise of protecting women when in actual fact it's going to exploit them like never before.
Yes, well, look, the thing is that their argument is that they are wanting, initially, was that they are wanting to protect women who are in Muslim marriages who are uh, in polygamous relationships that are now currently illegal. If, for example, they want to inherit, and they can prove that they were in a marriage under that dispensation. But the thing is that, firstly, what is being proposed is something that's going to affect absolutely everybody, every marriage, not just Muslims. And secondly, the Muslims themselves have said they don't want this bill. They want their own bill that just deals with their marriages in the same way that customary African traditional marriages have their own bill. So uh, if that was granted, that would not affect everybody else's marriages. There's also other ways they can solve this problems with Muslim marriages and inheritances and things with other laws, but without having to threaten and affect everybody else's marriage.
So you say this will impact on religious freedom. You've mentioned the issue of pastors who now are confronted with folks that will come because they are, officers of the state when they act as marriage officers. And so, in a certain sense, it's obligatory for them to be willing to officiate as a marriage officer.
Well, I think the people who are defending this bill will argue that there is a statement in the bill in Section 11 which says that people must be protected against coercion on grounds of religious conscience. But I don't trust that protection. Firstly, it can be taken out altogether in an amendment, which is exactly what happened with state marriage officers in 2019. They put the religious freedom protection into the initial law in 2006, then they took it out in 2019, 2020, so it can be taken out. Just one line. Secondly, it can be watered down. And we've seen this with other laws, for example, related to property rights or language rights or whatever, that there is a promise that this would be protected, and then that is diluted. Then we can also see the way that the courts have ruled in a completely biased manner because they just get some woke judge who favors the radical activists against religious freedom and rules against the pastors and the Christian marriage venues. And so I don't trust them on this. Now it's become almost impossible for a Christian to have a wedding venue that they rent out for weddings, which is a very lucrative way of making money. If you've got a farm or a nice house that you can rent out, or a hotel, because the thing is that these people get approached by same-sex couples and then they say no, and then these people can sue them in terms of the law. Now, we don't want that to happen to churches and pastors, and I don't trust these people to, at the moment we've got several different barriers of protection against that happening. Now they're removing these existing strong barriers of protection and putting one weak barrier of protection, and I don't trust that. So I want to keep the situation as it is, so we protect marriage and we protect pastors.
Now, Philip, at this stage, it's only a bill, but it's proposed to become an act. It's supposed to be made legal. Now, what can one do? I mean, is this a fair process? What do what must a Christian do in a situation like this?
Well, I think that we must use the opportunities that are offered to us, and I'm really grateful to be speaking on a radio station that reaches the Durban area, and that opportunity for Durban is going to be on Wednesday, the 26th of February, in the Umba Khan Community Hall at 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And I would encourage everybody to go there, and participate in that. If you uh, want to check the details, you can go to Facebook/Christian View Network, and you can see there we've put all the details of the different places where you can go. There's also another consultation in Natal, in Jozini, on Monday, in Ulundi on Tuesday. But the important one for people in Durban, which I think are the people who are going to hear this interview, is going to be the Umkuban Community Hall, which is kind of near to the harbor. There's two major roads which are intersecting near to that, and it seems like that is a place where people can go, and I'd be really appreciative if everybody who's listening can either go themselves or encourage somebody else from their church or organization, one of their friends, to go along.
You know, the question remains, and I don't want to sound negative, but is this a fair process? You know, you sometimes get the impression that all these public hearings are held, Christians come and others who are concerned, and it makes no impact at all. It's just wiped off and they just bulldoze ahead. What is your take on that?
Well, I think the major concern that I have with this process is that they firstly only told us the venues and the times for these hearings on Wednesday afternoon, which was 2 days ago. And that gives just about no time to notify people. I mean, most churches work on a weekly cycle, and most civic organizations would at least work on a weekly cycle, if not a monthly cycle. And this doesn't even leave a full week to notify people. I also was told when I complained about this that they say they've been doing workshops in the community already, and that's why they expect people to go along. I can't say for sure, but in other previous government consultations, they offer a free lunch, and so you get a whole lot of unemployed people going along for a free lunch, and all they do is that they say, yes, I support the bill. They don't know anything about it, except what the government has told them, presumably in these workshops. But that to me is not meaningful consultation. Meaningful consultation is when you give people the opportunity to have it properly advertised, to be distributed through the community networks, and everybody understands what it's around about from the local media, and then they go along, not just the people who are going along, having been already indoctrinated with the government viewpoint, and everybody else only gets like 2 working days of notice to go along. People are going to have to ask for leave from their employers, and this makes it rather difficult. So those people who can go along, I'd really encourage them to do so. But I have asked, I'm going to ask the Parliament to have another opportunity, but because I feel this was unreasonable, not enough time, but we have to make use of the opportunity that we've got. So at the moment, that opportunity is the 26th of February on Wednesday, 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And I really appreciate those who can go along to do so.
Yeah, I
But
think it's
no, I don't think it's fair. But I find that. But the other question that you also ask is there a realistic opportunity that we can influence the situation? And I believe the answer is yes. If we are strong, we go along, we speak up, then yes, there is. There are also opposition parties that are participating in all of this. And I think there are sensible people in the ruling party who will listen to concerns and but they need a mandate from the people. They need people to speak up and say, no, we don't want this. The existing marriage dispensation is working, and although it may be imperfect, we don't want radical changes like this.
Yeah, we know this has been scheduled, but the timing is very unfortunate because all this stuff is really part of the woke culture that was exported under previous administrations in the US. It's a pity that we didn't enter into the Trump era for long enough because they've terminated the financing of this kind of woke culture, isn't it?
Well, I think they're in process of reducing the government budget that's going into this, but there's also, firstly, a whole lot of private billionaire money going through from the Soros Open Society Foundation, the Bill Gates Foundation towards these woke organizations. There's also large amount of money that is going from our major banks, financial institutions where woke people get onto their corporate social investment portfolio, and they allocate this money towards what they would call gender equality. And next minute you discover gender equality in their minds is letting women have more than one husband. So which to me is crazy, or letting, saying that a male who identifies with a female must be allowed into the female bathrooms. To me, that's crazy. It doesn't benefit their women's rights at all. In fact, it does quite the opposite. But this is what is happening, and we have to speak up against this. I think that the changes in America are going to help, but they're not going to entirely solve this problem. It's going to take years to deal with this unbalanced funding situation. But there is enormous money pushing this agenda, and there's also enormous pressure on the academic side, where I think academia has been largely hijacked by woke extremist activists. And but this is our opportunity to speak up, and there's been many situations in the past where we have spoken up. And I think a recent example is the Bella Bill, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, where parents spoke up very strongly at multiple hearings, and the government actually agreed to about 3/4 of what we asked them for. Now, we would have liked them to agree to everything that we asked them for, but the fact that they agreed to 3/4 of it, I think, is very good news and should encourage us to do the same again. And I also know that on the ground, many parents have spoken up in their local schools and said, no, we don't want this nonsense. And the school governing bodies have supported them and they've blocked it. So we have to use the opportunities that we've got, even if it's not a level playing field, even if it's not fair. And we push for fairness, but we have to go where there's an opportunity. And right now, that's on Wednesday, the 26th, 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock at this Mkuban Community Hall in that's near to Durban Harbour. So please go along to that and speak up on this, and also go to our Facebook page to find more information. And you can also from there join a WhatsApp information group and or a Telegram group, whatever you prefer, to get information all about this.
Thank you so much, Philip. That was very enlightening and encouraging. Praise God for those who are still doing something. Folks, you've been listening to Philip Rosenthal, an advocacy group specifically dealing now with the marriage bill that is impending. God bless you all. Thanks, Philip.
Okay, thanks then.